In this week's Parashat Bo, Bnei Yisrael are given their first mitzvah. As the Midrash tells us, Am Yisrael is finally born. We're finally a nation, and we felt naked. We felt naked without mitzvot. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu, in all of His love, gives us our very first mitzvah. Rashi, in the beginning of the Torah, told us we could have just started the whole Torah. If the Torah was only a mitzvah book, we would have started right now with the very first mitzvah. HaChodesh Hazeh Lachem Rosh Chodashim. The mitzvah of the new month, of the Rosh Chodesh, that Am Yisrael, that Bnei Yisrael, we have the koach to determine time, to determine zmanim. Through our vision, we're going to look at the moon, and we're going to decide when the new month starts. We have the power over time. We have the mitzvah of the moon. Am Yisrael, Bnei Yisrael, we're compared to the moon. God is the sun that is shining. We're the moon. At times we wax, at times we wane. We have good times, we have bad times, but ultimately we try to reflect that light of the sun. We have the mitzvah of the moon. We got our first mitzvah. Now in this Dvar Torah, B'ezrat Hashem, I want to try to speak about a larger theme that Lanut Dati, we can connect a couple of the Yetziat Mitzrayim symbols, and I think it's leading to a much bigger picture of what God is trying to teach us and what God is trying to teach the Egyptians at the exact same time. So I want to start off with this concept of the first mitzvah is the mitzvah of the moon. I was listening to a Dvar Torah from my Rebbe of Eitan Feiner, where he was speaking about this mitzvah of the moon, because contrasting it to, what were the Egyptians all about? The Egyptians were all about the sun. Now, anybody who's into Egyptian mythology, the Egyptians worshipped like everything known to man. Like anybody who check out the academic books on this, they like to check out the Torah about this. The Egyptians just like worshipped everything. And we know some of the main things that they would worship was the Nile. The Nile was where they got their water from. That's where they survived. That was a god for them. The crocodile in the Nile is also a symbol of a god. That's why a lot of times the Pharaoh would wear like a crocodile kind of hat. Paro thought he was a god. He would stand on top of the Nile. He was the son of the gods. But the main god in Egyptian mythology was the sun god, known also as Ra. Actually, it's a play in the Torah when it speaks about the Ra and the Shamayim, that we see it as the evil and the bad. They might see it as their sun god. So we have this concept of their god of the sun. And actually, there's a whole idea when it comes to the Makot, that the Eser Makot, the 10 Makot were done in a way to try to attack the gods of Egypt. That the first 3 was dedicated to the Nile god, and that's why we're going to have the water's going to be turning into blood, and that's why we're going to have ourselves the frogs coming out. And when we get to the last 3 are finally dedicated to their final strongest god, the god of the night, the god of the sun god. And so what do? We make an eclipse. We first start off with Arba, the locust, which the Torah tells us covers it's like darkness. And then we have Choshech itself, the actual darkness. Hashem is making an eclipse of the sun. And then we have Makat Bechorot in the middle of the night. And then we're able to leave in the night. But we say we're going to wait till the morning to leave, because we want to prove to everybody their sun god has no koach whatsoever. The sun is a fake. So says Rabbi Feiner, that's kind of the idea behind the moon over here. While the Egyptians worshipped the sun, he actually says the Egyptians, they were the first ones to create the sundial. So we're talking about the initial watches, talking about time. We're going to determine time, and we're going to decide time based on the moon. They're going to decide time based on the sun. They're going to create that first watch. He also said a side idea. They also created the first umbrella, not to protect themselves from the rain. They didn't have that much rain. They had them, it was more Nile water, but they actually did it from the sun. The sun was so strong in Egypt, in the desert. There's a very powerful sun. So they created the first umbrella. But we see this concept of the Egyptians are all about the sun. Their time is based on the sun. We come along and say, no. We are the moon. We're the smaller of the luminaries. We compare ourselves to the one that just gives off the radiance, the mirror light of that sun. We are the moon. Okay, so that's one idea in our parasha. There's another idea that we see throughout the parasha, and that's the idea of the Bechor, and this concept of ultimately Makat Bechorot. The final plague is to kill all the firstborns in Mitzrayim. So I remember hearing a Dvar Torah a couple years ago from Rabbi Khan, where he speaks about Egyptian society being all about the firstborn, and Paro being the top of the firstborns, the firstborn of all the firstborns, the greatest of the greatest is going to be Paro at the very top, and the symbol of the firstborn is that of the pyramid. That who's at the very top? That's the firstborn. That's the greatest one. That's Paro, and that's why HaKadosh Baruch Hu is trying to break that pyramid. We don't have these hierarchies. We have ourselves. The Egyptians are on top. The Jews are the slaves in the bottom. We have Avadim. We have the Adon. We have all the hierarchies and the sects in society. No. God breaks it all down. The pyramids are being broken down by now. The firstborn is being killed. Paro, you're not that guy on top that you think is on top. And we actually already know these lessons because we read Sefer Bereshit, and Bereshit is all about brothers. And what do we see with the brothers? Whenever it comes to the brothers, it's always the Bechor that doesn't make it. Cain and Hevel, Cain doesn't make it. When it comes to Yitzchak and Yishmael, Yishmael is the older one. No, Yitzchak is the one that makes it. When it comes to Esav and Yaakov, again, Esav the Bechor gets pushed to the side and Yaakov steps it up. And then Yaakov himself is trying to pick who's the Bechor, and we think it's Reuben. Reuben's totally gone. Yaakov tries to go for Yosef. Yosef kind of doesn't make it. Maybe when it comes to land in Israel, he makes it, Ephraim and Menashe. But for the most part, it's not Yosef. It's Yehuda, who's not anywhere near being the firstborn. We're going to go through a Reuben. We're going to go through a Shimon, a Levi. Finally, the fourth son, we'll get to a Yehuda. That's going to be the one that's going to be the actual leader. So we see this whole concept that the Bechor is the one that really doesn't make it. So I was thinking, so I'm wondering, okay, so if the Bechor doesn't make it, and we see over here Makat Bechorot, but later on in the Torah, we'll get to halachot of inheritance, and even when it comes to Yosef gets a certain level of Bechorah himself to it. Why does the Torah give special kavod to the Bechor? Why does the Bechor get a double portion? We seem to see that ultimately, even though we've gone through all these stories that the Bechor doesn't make it, Ephraim and Menashe, finally we have brothers who get along, but the younger one becomes the one on top. So why do we even have a concept of a Bechor getting any benefits? Why should he get that double portion? Why do we care about the Bechor? Why does he get kavod? We learn from Paro's story and from the Breshit stories, don't go with the Bechor. So I asked Rabbi Khan this question. He gave me an unbelievable answer. He says the Bechor doesn't make it if the Bechor thinks that he's number one. If the Bechor is like Paro and thinks that being the Bechor means that you're the best and you're the leader, you're the guy in charge, or you're the greatest of the great, that's not what a Bechor is supposed to be. Rather, what's the Bechor supposed to be? He's supposed to be the best number two. We said this many times in the past. Bechor is bet kaf resh. Bet is 2, kaf is 20, resh is 200. 222, it's 222. You want to know what the greatness of the Bechor is? To be the number two, the greatest number two. You want to know what made Yosef so great? Not that he was the number one. He was never number one. He was number two to Yaakov. He was number two to Potiphar. He was number two in the jail. He was number two to Paro. Mashiach ben Yosef is number two to Mashiach ben David. The greatness of Yosef was being the best number two. Being the best number two to help the number one. Modern day psychologists say that, we always think the Bechor is going to be the great leader because he's like the loudest one in the house and all that kind of. Ultimately, they say that statistically it doesn't prove that the Bechor becomes like the CEOs of the companies. But rather, what does the Bechor do? He's the one who seems like he's in charge because he's the best number two that takes care of the house. When the parents aren't home, it's the Bechor that's taking care of the younger kids, the younger siblings. It's when things are difficult in the house, the Bechor wants to step it up. When the parents get older, the Bechor feels this responsibility to take care of the parents. That's the koach of the Bechor. We know that Yosef is called like a miktzat av. He's like a little bit of the avot, but he's not a full abba. He's not. We only have shlosha, but we only have 3 avot. It's only Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. What does it mean that Yosef is a little bit of an Av? He's a little bit of an Av because he's there to help his father Yaakov. He finishes the avodah of Yaakov, as Chazal tells us, Rashi tells us, we have the flame and the fire, the Esh and the Shalhebet coming together to defeat Esav. It's the Yosef Yaakov duo. Yaakov's job is to be the best number two possible, to step it up. And that's, again, the deeper lesson over here. We Jews believe in the Bechor. Beni Bechori Yisrael. God calls us the Bechor. We are his Bechor nation. But what does it mean to be the Bechor nation? It means to be the best number two possible. And then Rabbi Khan pointed out one more idea. He said, check out the Netziv on next week's parasha. So I actually want to open up and read inside Ha'emek Davar on next week's parasha of Az Yashir. When we finally leave Egypt, have that final exodus as we sing the song to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Next week, B'ezrat Hashem, Parashat Shirah, we're going to sing the song of Az Yashir. So says the Netziv, unbelievable idea, and I think this is the third part of this theme that really is going to bring it home. Okay. Says the Netziv, this is on the first pasuk of Az Yashir. So says the pasuk, Az Yashir Moshe u'bnei Yisrael at the shira azot ladonai. And now Moshe and the Bnei Yisrael, the Jewish people, were singing this song to God. Vayomer lemor, and they say, Ashira ladonai, let's sing out to God, ki ga'o ga'a, because he's so great and so awesome. Sus verochevo ramavayam. The horse, the sus, the horse, and the one who rides the horse, Ramavayam. They were thrown down into the water. They were hishlich. They were upside down and turned over. Milamala lamata, as Rashi is going to tell us. So basically, we have this theme again that we have the horse. This is the horse that's providing the doing the job for the rider. Take him to where he has to go to attack the Jewish people. The rochvo, the guy on top, the chariot leader thinks that he's the guy on top, and ultimately, what does the Kadosh Baruch Hu do? He flips it. Everything goes milamala lamata. It's being thrown in the water up and down, and basically now the horse is on top, the rochvo is down below. It's again this concept of attacking the Egyptians and saying, "You think you're the Bechor? You think you're the top of the pyramid? You think you're the sun? We're going to turn the sun into darkness. We're going to take your rider and put him underneath the horse." Everything gets flipped. The pyramid scheme no longer works out. But now let's read the Netziv. Says Amek Davar, Sus verochevo ramavayam. Says the Netziv, Zoi tamtzit hashira. These 4 words, that the horse and the rider, the chariot and chariot rider, ramavayam, they were thrown, they fell into the water. Zoi tamtzit hashira. This is the whole main idea, the main point, the main theme, the concentration. If you want to know what this song is about, it's about the horse and the rider being thrown into the water. And how do we know this is the main idea? Kemuvan mishrat hanishim. Because if we just fast forward in next week's parsha to when Miriam comes out with the timbrels with the women and they sing their own song and they dance. So over there in her song it says, Vatan lehem Miriam starts telling the women, Shiru Adonai ki ga'oga'a sus ve'rochevora mabayam. Her song is much shorter than the Az Yashir, but in her song, the same theme, same theme is repeated about the Sus v'Rochamo v'Ramayam. So therefore, says the Netziv, it must be that this is the Ikar, main part, this is the main theme behind the song. Va'inyan, he says, what are we supposed to learn from this? Because in the understanding of Sus v'Rochvo, everything of that song is nichlal, it's inside these two words. And just like the horse, the chariot will do whatever the chariot leader, the horse rider will tell him to do when they go out to war. Wherever he tells him to go, he's going to go. So too a soldier is like a horse to his master, to the main general, to go into fire, to go into water, whatever he says to do. We're in a war, whatever my commander says, whatever my commander says, the general says, I'm going to do whatever he says. And he says, we know we have different levels. We have aluf, tat-aluf, we have the different levels in the army, the commander levels, until you get to the very, very top of the army. And when we get to that Ramatkal, he tells you what to do. Or here he says that you get to Paro Atzmo, and he says, so too, this includes the Sar HaElyon. I think he's talking mystical over here, like the angel up in the Shamayim. If not, he's talking about the highest general, but I think he's talking over here about like the Malach in the Shamayim. That's in the Maracha HaElyonah Shel Paro. That's dealing with the higher levels of Paro. And to that higher level general, that higher level angel in the Shamayim, to Paro, everybody else is a sus, everybody else is a horse. And all of this was thrown into the water. Every level of the hierarchy was thrown into the water, was mixed up and down. This is what it means that God is so great. Why the double language? Because God is now above all of these things. You know, if we said in our idea of the Chodesh HaZelachem, we're the moon, God is the sun. It's not a human being, it's not a paro, it's not some kind of fake God. Only God is the greatest of the greatest. He says, with this we can understand a beautiful pasuk in Shir HaShirim. This is Perak Aleph Pasuk Tet, our love song between us and HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Says the pasuk, Lesusati b'rechvei paro dimitich ra'ayati. Hashem says, my rayati, the lover says, he says, my lover, my beloved, you are compared to a sus in the chariots of Paro. You are like the horse, the hare amongst the chariots, amongst all the horses, amongst all the steeds of Paro. You're compared to that, my beloved one. What does that mean? That we're compared to the Jewish people, the lover of God, the wife, we're compared to the horses? Like, what does that mean? Says the Netziv, just like the horse in the army, in the chariots of Paro, is part of the Hanhaga, part of the way that he runs things, the way the Melucha, the way his kingship works, is through this hierarchy. You have to have the soldiers, you have to have the generals, you have to have the commanders, you have to have every level of society, and the horse helps everything run. So to Yisrael, us the Jewish people, we are, so to speak, God's horse. We are God's chariot. That through our actions, the actions of the Jewish people, and the hashkacha, the way that HaKadosh Baruch Hu relates to us, the hashkacha, the shefa that comes from the Shamayim, that's what HaKadosh Baruch Hu runs the world. It's through us, and through HaKadosh Baruch Hu's relationship to us. And I was actually thinking that, it says that, we have ourselves, the Rochvo is the rider, God is the ultimate rider, but the Rechev, the Merkava, the chariot, we're compared to the Sus, to the chariot itself, to the Rechev is also, again, the same letters as Bechor. Rechev is, again, 222, Reish Kaf Bet, 222. Again, we have this concept of we are the Bechor, we are the Rechev, we are these chariots for HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Ukedichtiv, and says the Netziv, as we learn in Devarim, in Vezot Beracha. So the pasuk in Vezot Beracha says, "Ein ke'el Yeshurun." There's no one like God, O Jeshurun, Rochev Shamayim be'ezrecha, who rides in the heavens to help us. But he's learning Don't ride Rocheb Shamayim that God rides the heavens to help us. That's a literal meaning, but rather he rides the heavens through his helpers, meaning we are his helpers. He says, He says, as I'm going to explain later on, and actually in my fancy netziv that I have over here, they actually bring his words on Shir Hashirim, on that pasuk, that Dimiticha Ra'ayati, that we are compared, that us, the lover of God, is compared to the horse. So he says over there, At nimshacht acharai, you ran after me. We have this idea that we followed God into the desert right now in Azia Shir and the Yetziat Mitzrayim. We followed God into the unknown, trusting in HaKadosh Baruch Hu, trusting. We're like the damsel, trusting in our hero. Vani manhiga olam al yedei ma'asecha ubirchotecha. And I run this world based on your actions and on your brachot. We said in Bracha, in Keli Sharun Rochev Shamayim Be'ezrecha, as it says over there, there is no one like God who rides the heavens with Be'ezrecha, with, now he's learning, with your help. The Pirusho, which means Shakadosh Baruch Hu Rochev al Gagalei Ateva Mechunim Shamayim. God rides up in the heavens. He controls the laws of nature, which we call the Shamayim. He controls this world Be'ezram Shel Yisrael, through our help. Ayidei brachot, v'tfilot shelahem, through our brachot, through our tfilot shelahem, k'tadim v'sachat b'metzias. We learned brachot v'savat barachta, and actually we said this in the past. The Mekubalim explain that when it comes to like food, when God gives us this beautiful nature, this beautiful world, this beautiful food, but until we make an actual bracha on the food, if it would kind of be like stealing. But when we make a bracha on the food, what happens? We're making a declaration in Dibur, we're showing to the world, we're demonstrating that it all comes from God. Even though I work so hard to make that bread, I recognize that ultimately it's all a bracha from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. In that Dibur, we are the sus, we are the horse, we are the moon shining God's light. We're proving to the world how great HaKadosh Baruch Hu is. So it's our ma'asim, it's our berachot, it's our mitzvot, it's our berachot, it's the koach that Hashem gives us that ultimately will also lead to the hashkacha and the shefa and all the good that God's going to bring to this world. It's going to all be through us being God's chariot, us being that number two to bring God into the entire world. We see this with that concept of the moon. We declare the times. We have the koach to make the actual zmanim, to have those moeds, to serve God and to do that. We have so much power down below. Our ma'asim, our mitzvot are so powerful, but only if we recognize that it's the koach of the number two. And I think that's the bigger picture of all these ideas of Yetziat Mitzrayim. That on the one hand, we had Paro saying, we worship the sun. The sun is what's really what it's all about. And I can be the sun, I can be the Nile, I can be the God. I'm the pyramid, I'm the Bechor, I'm the rider of the chariot, I'm the rider of the horse, I'm the greatest general possible. And we, the Jewish people, say, no. We're the moon. We reflect the light of the sun. Only God is the sun. Only God is the rider. So it's our job. So God's going to flip everything. He's going to destroy your sun. He's going to destroy your rider. He's going to destroy your pyramid. He's going to destroy everything. But ultimately, we recognize there is a true son. There is a koach to being a Bechor. But if you understand that the Bechor is the helper for the Abba, and that's who we are. So what are we? We're the moon. We declare the times. We have this special power to reflect the light of the sun. And what are we? We are the firstborn, the way Yosef understood it, to be that number two, to always help the father, to be the Mashiach ben Yosef, who's going to set things up for Mashiach ben David, to prepare Yehuda to be the great Yehuda that he's supposed to be. We are the horse, that chariot, that rechav, again, 222, that's the chariot for HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that holy Merkava, with all the Kabbalistic hints we're trying to say. We are that Merkava for HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And then the most beautiful of the mashalim and the most beautiful of the symbols, let's go to Shir Hashirim, that love song to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the most holy of all of the songs to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. In this mashal, we are the wife. We are the wife. We are the lover. We are the beloved who's running after God. Moshcheni acharecha nerutza. God, wherever you tell me to go, we're going out to the desert. We don't know what's going to happen next, but we know how awesome you are. And now we're going to spread this idea to the entire world. You love us so much, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We want the whole world to know how much you love us, how much you love the whole world, how awesome you are, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We just want to declare to everybody how great you are. Shabbat Shalom.